Trial resumed. Jury not present.
The court said, "Good morning. Please make your appearances."
Ms. Murray said, "Good morning, Your Honor. Juliana Murray, Ryan Finkel, and Justin Horton. We'll also be joined by Micah Ferguson on behalf of the United States. We're joined at counsel's table by paralegal specialist Jeff Mearns."
Mr. Kamraju said, "Good morning, Your Honor. Siddhartha Kamraju, Scott Skirick and Claire Tilden on behalf of Mr. Gov't. And Mr. Gov't is with us at counsel's table."
The court said, "Please be seated. Have you resolved the issue of the transcription?"
Ms. Murray said, "Not yet, Your Honor. We attempted to discuss with defense counsel after the trial day yesterday. We don't have resolution yet, but we will speak with them again before the jury comes in at 9:30 today."
The court said, "I wanted to clarify something. I may have left you with the impression that the transcript as an aid cannot go back into the jury room. That's not the case. It can go back into the jury room as an aid. It's just that typically I have ruled that they're to rely on the actual recording. However, the parties could agree that they may rely equally on the transcription."
Ms. Murray said, "Yes, Your Honor. We will continue to discuss with defense counsel. This is a situation where we do have a stipulation. And our understanding was that the parties stipulated that the transcripts, including the English, were admitted entirely as evidence. We appreciate Your Honor's clarification. We certainly would want the transcripts to go back to the jury in any event, whether as evidence or as an aid, because otherwise the Mandarin translation, which is evidence, could not be understood without context. But again, we'll engage with defense counsel, and we'll come back to the court on this issue."
The court said, "All right. Is there anything further?"
Ms. Murray said, "With respect to scheduling, Your Honor, we've spoken with defense counsel. If it's okay with the court and with the jury, we would propose that Wednesday through Friday this week we sit an additional 15 minutes until 3 o'clock. We're still discussing potential schedule change for next week. And we would propose to come to the court hopefully tomorrow morning with a joint proposal."
The court said, "All righty. Is there anything else?"
Mr. Kamraju said, "Not from us, Your Honor."
Ms. Murray said, "No, Your Honor."
The court said, "Thank you."
Recess. Jury not present.
The court said, "Please have the jurors brought in."
The law clerk said, "Jury entering."
Jury present.
The court said, "Good morning, jurors. Please be seated. And counsel, could you approach?"
Continued on next page. At the sidebar.
The court said, "I just wanted to ask which Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday you want the extra 15?
Ms. Murray said, "This week."
The court said, "I'll ask them now."
Continued on next page. In open court.
The court said, "Members of the jury, we are running a bit behind, and I wanted to ask if for tomorrow, Thursday and Friday you could stay until 3 p.m. Is that all right? Anybody who cannot stay until 3 p.m.? All right. So that's what we'll do. Now we're going to continue with the direct examination of Mr. Khaled. Remember, sir, that you're still under."
Haitham Khaled. Resumed. Direct examination continued. By Ms. Murray.
"Mr. Khaled, just to remind you, could you keep the microphone in front of your mouth so the jurors can hear you?"
"Sure."
"When we left off yesterday, we were talking about certain recordings that you had made. Do you recall that?"
"Yes."
"And you testified yesterday that approximately $100 million had came into Crane's account in March and April of 2021. What, if anything, at the time was your reaction to that volume of incoming wire activity?"
"I was nervous because it was just a large sum amount that was in my account without any clear instructions what to do with it."
"Why, if at all, were you nervous about that amount of money?"
"It was a lot of liability. It was over $100 million. Just concern of what's the status on what's going to happen. Especially there hasn't been, I think, accounts that are open for G Club or any other entities, so."
"Did there come a time, if ever, when you were asked to transfer that money that was in Crane's accounts to accounts held in the name of another company?"
"Yes."
"What company?"
"Himalaya Exchange."
And to your knowledge who, if anyone, controls the Himalaya exchange?
That was William J.E.
Were the accounts you were asked to transfer the money to held in the name of the Himalaya exchange?
There was talks to open an account for Crane with the Himalaya exchange, which was a fund to invest in crypto.
When you say crypto, what are you referring to?
The court said, "One moment, please. You said there was talks to open an account for Crane with the Himalaya exchange, which was a fund to invest in. If you could please explain what you mean by that?"
The witness said, I was requested to open an account for Crane with the Himalaya exchange as a fund, as an investment fund.
The court said, "I am not following what you mean. Perhaps you could ask some questions to clarify that."
Ms. Murray said, "Yes, Your Honor." Mr. Khaled. So we're talking about $100 million or so that are in Crane's accounts in March and April of 2020, correct?
Yes.
And what was your understanding, if anything, of the source of those funds?
It was a mix of members for G Club, also investors.
What investors?
There were two entities that were going to be invested in. One was a private offering for tech company and one was H$.
Focusing on the first, what was the tech company relating to the private offering?
It was a tech company that was going to be created in the Cayman Islands for a private offering to establish a tech platform.
Do you know the name of that tech company?
I don't remember it, no.
Who, if anyone, controlled that tech company?
It wasn't a control. But the creation of that tech company was being done with Yvette and an attorney in Cayman.
Who, if anyone, did you discuss the tech company with?
Just Yvette and the attorneys.
So that was the first category of investor money that you mentioned. What was the second category?
It was an H$.
What's H$?
It was a cryptocurrency that was being established.
Who told you that?
Yvette.
So the request that you mentioned to transfer the funds from Crane's account, who, if anyone? Did you discuss that request to transfer the funds with?
William J.E.
What were those discussions?
Opening up an account for Crane to invest in H$.
And to be clear, William J.E. asked Crane to invest in H$ using what funds?
The funds that were with Crane.
What, if anything, was your reaction to the request to transfer the funds that Crane's held to the Himalaya exchange?
I told them I cannot do it because Crane cannot be an investor if it's not instructed to.
What do you mean if it's not instructed to?
If it's not instructed by the people that sent the money to Crane.
Did there come a time when Crane entered into a legal agreement with G Clubs?
Yes.
What type of agreement?
Payment facilitation agreement, escrow agreement.
Can you describe what that means?
That means Crane will receive money for G Club on behalf of members, and it will conduct a compliance, a KYC check, and then transfer the money to G Club.
Ms. Loftus, if we could please publish what's in evidence as Government Exhibit BR 1515. Mr. Khaled. Do you recall the effective date of the payment facilitation agreement with G Clubs?
Effective date was November of 2020.
And when did you enter into the payment facilitation agreement with G Clubs?
In May 2021, I think.
Ms. Strofasad, did you say May 2021?
The witness said, yes.
Why, if at all? Was the effective date of the payment facilitation agreement backdated from the date that it was signed?
To capture the entire amount that came into Crane. And until that time. That's when everyone agreed on how to properly transfer this money.
What do you mean everyone agreed? To whom are you referring?
I mean the discussion was done with Miles Guy, Miles' son, in-house attorney Anna, my attorneys. There was discussion with William about it as well and a gentleman named David Long Island.
Looking at this, is this the payment facilitation agreement you mentioned between Crane and G Club?
Yes.
Ms. Loftus, if we could zoom in on the top portion, please. Looking at the first line, Mr. Khaled. Can you read the effective date of this agreement?
November 23, 2020.
And then if we could go, Ms. Loftus, please, and look at the date that this was signed. Mr. Khaled. What date did you sign this agreement on behalf of Crane?
May 12, 2021.
What, if any, fee was Crane entitled to collect under the payment facilitation agreement?
2% fee.
2% of what?
Of the cleared amount, which is 100, it was 137 million at that point.
What do you mean by the cleared amount? If you could just break that down for us.
Any payments that went through the process and a KYC indemnity package was received from the sender with instructions where the money should go. That amount, that transfer was considered a cleared amount. And every day as many packages we had received. There will be a total amount that goes out to G Club.
Ms. Loftus, we can take that down. So, Mr. Khaled, once Crane cleared funds, what, if anything, happened with that money that was then held in Crane bank accounts?
It went to G Club's Morgan Stanley account.
How, if at all, did you know what account to send the cleared funds to?
I was told that was the only Morgan Stanley account open for G Club. G Club had no other accounts. And the account was opened through me, so that's the account that we had, and that was in the agreement. That was in the instructions with Anna.
How, if at all, did the parties decide on a 2% fee for Crane for any cleared funds?
It was discussed with Mileson that there needs to be a financial transaction and an arm's length setup where Crane would receive a monetary compensation for the work that it's doing for G Club. A research was done on the average escrow fee, and the 2% was the determined and agreed on.
What do you mean by arm's length?
Having a separate company where it's not considered just one company, just separate. Separate management where the role of compliance is being performed properly.
And at the time that Crane entered into the payment facilitation agreement with G Clubs, at what office location were you working?
I was still at 162 64th Street, the townhouse.
At the time that Crane entered into the payment facilitation agreement with G Clubs, what entity was paying your salary?
Lexington.
And what entity formally employed you?
Saraca.
Between May and June of 2021. Approximately what volume of G Club member funds did Crane clear from its accounts?
Approximately 97 million, something like that.
And what was the approximate amount of the 2% fee that Crane was entitled to for clearing those funds?
About 2 million.
Did there come a time when G Club terminated the payment facilitation agreement?
Yes.
Approximately when was that?
I think June or July of 2021.
What basis, if any, did G Clubs provide for terminating that agreement?
They said that I breached the contract and I was taking too long to clear funds.
Who, if anyone, said that?
There's a couple of calls where there was a complaint that money needs to be transferred now. Needs to be transferred now. It was done by Miles Gway, David from Long Island. Some employees like Ming that worked with us in the townhouse. Yvette got on a couple of calls.
And after G Club terminated the payment facilitation agreement, what, if anything, happened next with respect to Crane?
After the termination, G Club sued Crane through an arbitration process.
We'll turn to the arbitration in a moment. After the payment facilitation agreement was terminated, what, if anything, happened with the 2% service fees that Crane held?
I transferred it to my personal account.
Why?
I was entitled to it.
Was that approximately $2.7 million?
Yes.
After you transferred that money to your personal account, what, if anything, did you do with it?
I purchased properties, investment properties.
In whose name did you purchase those properties?
My wife and entities that are owned by my wife.
Why, if at all? Did you purchase those properties in your wife's name or in the names of entities owned by your wife?
Wanted to make sure that if anything, any lawsuits or anything might happen to me, that the properties are in someone else's name that I trust.
Why?
I was fearing something might happen to me physically. I have a family. Wanted to protect them and give them at least financial security.
And what, if anything, did you agree to do under your non-prosecution agreement with the government with respect to that $2.7 million?
I have to forfeit the entire thing.
Does that include forfeiting the properties that you purchased with those funds?
Yes,
What is the current status of that forfeiture?
one property was sold already. One is pending, and the rest are for sale.
And to your understanding under your non-prosecution agreement, is that a continuing obligation until you forfeited the full amount of $2.7 million?
Yes,
Ms. Loftus, can we please pull up Government Exhibit 417? It's a recording that we were listening to yesterday. Mr. Khaled. I'd like to start at the 15-minute, excuse me, Ms. Loftus. Actually at the 7-minute and 20-second timestamp. This is page 8 in the transcript. Ms. Loftus. I think we left off a bit further along. Can we start at the 9-minute and 30-second mark, and we can play that? Thank you.
Media played.
Mr. Khaled, can you just remind us in this conversation what is happening?
Miles is trying to find out missing money that he was told was transferred. But that missing money was in transit stuck with Medici Correspondent Bank.
And this conversation was a meeting among several people that you participated in remotely, correct?
Ms. Shrofa said, "Objection to the leading, Your Honor. We covered all this yesterday."
Ms. Murray said, Your Honor, I'm just trying to remind the jury where we were yesterday.
The court said, you mentioned a call. Is that correct?
The witness said, yes.
The court said, and who was present on the call?
The witness said, Miles Gua, Yvette Wong, Alex Hadjikaralambis, which is an employee in the townhouse with us, myself on the call.
The court said, is that a phone call or a video conference?
The witness said, Alex and Yvette were in the townhouse. I was in my house on a video and Miles Gua was also on a call. I don't know if it was a video. Couldn't see.
The court said, and the figure 18.2 is that the missing money that you were referring to?
The witness said, yeah, he wanted a reconciliation of a total of $32 million, and $18.2 million was the missing part.
The court said, you may continue.
By Ms. Murray.
What, if anything, was the source of that $18.2 million?
Ms. Shrofa said, "Objection, asked and answered yesterday."
The court said, you may answer.
So it's transferred by individuals to G Club without any reference to the beneficiary. So it did not say G Club or did not have any reference, just monies transferred to Medici.
Ms. Murray said, Ms. Loftus, we can continue playing.
Media played.
Ms. Murray said, we can pause, Ms. Loftus. Mr. Khaled, what, if anything, did you discuss with Miles Gua about the amount of money beyond the $18 million that he believed was missing?
I gave him a reconciliation of how much G Club had at Medici for that amount.
Ms. Murray said, Ms. Loftus, can we go to 15 minutes and 50 seconds, please? This is on page 13 of the transcript.
Media played.
Ms. Murray said, pause, Ms. Loftus, please. Mr. Khaled, who is Limari that you referred to there?
She was hired as a CEO for G Club operations in Puerto Rico.
And you reference open tickets, what does that refer to?
These are complaints similar to a customer service case.
Complaints by whom?
People that sent the money.
People that sent what money?
The $18.2 million, we're assuming that it's the $18.2 million that was sent to G Club, per Medici for G Club.
And you mentioned Orbit.
Ms. Shrofa said, "Actually, Your Honor, I'm going to move to strike anything with assuming. If he knows, he knows. And if he doesn't know, he doesn't know."
The court said, yeah, he shouldn't be called on to make assumption.
Ms. Murray said, could we have a read back of Mr. Khaled's last answer, please?
Ms. Shrofa said, "That's the one I objected to."
Ms. Murray said, if we could read back until the point that it was struck. I understand that you were striking after assuming.
Record was read.
Mr. Khaled, you said that it had to do with people complaining. Who were those people?
People that wired monies.
Wire money for what purpose?
Ms. Shrofa said, "Objection. He just testified he didn't know."
The court said, if you know the purpose that they wired the money, you can state it.
To G Club.
Why, if at all, did those people wire money to G Club?
Ms. Shrofa said, same objection.
The court said, if you know, you may answer.
I don't know why.
You mentioned Orbit with respect to complaints. What is Orbit?
Orbit was the customer service company servicing G Club.
Ms. Murray said, we can continue, Ms. Loftus.
Media played.
Ms. Murray said, pause, please, Ms. Loftus. Mr. Khaled, there was a reference in what Yvette just said to CCP. What do you understand that to refer to?
Chinese Communist Party.
And at the time of this meeting or call April 28, 2021, what was your understanding, if anything, about whether the banking issue related to the Chinese Communist Party?
In many events I was told by Yvette, in-house attorneys and Miles Guai that the CCP is trying to interrupt business flow for any of the G entities.
Approximately when did Yvette, Miles Guai, and attorneys tell you that?
Since I started working with Yvette and Miles.
And that's in August of 2020?
Ms. Shrofa said, objection to the leading. It's asked and answered.
The court said, overruled. You may answer.
Yes.
When you started working at Saraca, did you believe that explanation regarding the Communist Party?
I did.
Why?
It was a good theory, good story. There's a lot of news about Chinese versus America. So it made sense then.
Did there come a time when you stopped believing that the Communist Party was responsible for the G-series banking issues?
Yes.
Around when was that?
April, May of 2021.
Why, if at all, did your view change?
Because there wasn't really anything there to help and support that mission that was happening between G Club and the other entities.
What do you mean by that?
Initially it was a G Club membership to help individuals access US services, resources. By April, May, there was a lot of money between G Club accounts, Crane's accounts. But none of the services that were going to that were told will be provided was in place. G Club still had very few employees, 0 to none services, so it wasn't real anymore what we were doing.
Ms. Murray said, Ms. Loftus, we can continue playing, please.
Media played.
Ms. Murray said, pause, please.
Ms. Shrofa said, Your Honor, I apologize. The English portion needs to be translated from the recording for Mr. Guo. I apologize.
The court said, of course. The interpreters need to translate whatever is stated in English, including on the recording.
The interpreter said, of course.
Ms. Shrofa said, Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Khaled, in that portion of the recording that we just listened to, who, if anyone, is giving instructions regarding what G clubs should do?
Miles Guai.
And who else?
And Yvette.
Ms. Murray said, Ms. Loftus, can we please go to the 19-minute and 45-second mark, start playing there?
Media played.
Ms. Murray said, can you pause, Ms. Loftus? Mr. Khaled, do you know what contract is being referred to in this portion of the recording?
The contract is a loan agreement in order to facilitate a wire transfer for 20 or 50 million.
Do you know who the parties to that loan agreement were?
I think it was Fiesta.
What is the full name of that entity?
I don't recall the full name. Fiesta Properties, something like that.
Ms. Murray said, Ms. Loftus, we can continue.
Media played.
Ms. Murray said, can you pause, Ms. Loftus? Mr. Khaled, in those discussions which were translated in the captions from Mandarin, was there any reference to the Communist Party with respect to potential account closures?
No.
Ms. Murray said, we can keep playing.
Media played.
Ms. Murray said, can you pause, Ms. Loftus, please? Mr. Khaled, what foundation do you understand to be referenced in these conversations?
It's the Himalaya Fund.
And whose foundation is that, if anyone's?
Himalaya Fund was controlled by William J.E.
Ms. Murray said, we can continue, please, Ms. Loftus.
Media played.
Ms. Murray said, pause, Ms. Loftus. Mr. Khaled, do you recognize the voice of the person who is added to this call indicated here as you?
That's William J.E.
Ms. Murray said, "Thank you, Ms. Loftus. You can continue."
Media played.
Ms. Murray said, "We can pause, Ms. Loftus, and if you can go to 26 minutes and 17 seconds. This is on page 21 of the transcript."
Media played.
Ms. Murray said, "Can you pause, please? If we could go back just a moment to the reference to Alex."
Media played. You can pause.
Mr. Khaled, who, if anyone, do you understand that Alex reference to be?
Alex Hadjikaralambus.
Did you have an understanding of whether Alex was a formal employee of G Club?
He was an employee of G Fashion, but worked on G Club.
What were Alex's duties and responsibilities with respect to G Club?
His title was controller, and he was in charge of accounting. Specifically, the reconciliation of member IDs with the money that comes in.
And earlier there was a reference to a Mr. He. Did you hear that or read that?
Yes.
Who do you understand that to be?
The ultimate beneficiary of G Club and its parent companies Jovial.
And what is his full name?
Howran He.
We can continue for a moment, Ms. Loftus.
Media played.
Pause please. Mr. Khaled, in that portion that we justly listened to, who, if anyone, was Yvette referencing with respect to potential investigation into the transfers?
I'm sorry. Can you go back?
If we can go back just a moment, Ms. Loftus.
Media played.
Pause there.
The regulatory authorities investigate.
Was there any reference in this portion of the conversation to the CCP?
No.
We can continue, Ms. Loftus.
Media played.
Can you pause, Ms. Loftus? Just go back one moment. Mr. Khaled. Can you read the second sentence here in the portion that Yvette just spoke?
Do you think a normal company would do this?
All right. We can continue.
Media played.
Can you pause, Ms. Loftus? Mr. Khaled. In this discussion regarding the $100 million that's in Crane's accounts, is there any discussion regarding the services that G Club provides to its members?
No.
The court said, "Mr. Khaled, would you remind me who is Mr. U?"
The witness said, William J.E.
Ms. Loftus, we can continue.
Media played.
Mr. Khaled, you joined this meeting by video, is that correct?
Yes.
What, if anything, happened after the portion of the meeting that we just listened to?
Yvette threw the remote control onto the TV where Gov't was.
How do you know that?
I saw it and heard the crack. And then when I came to the office the second day, I saw the TV cracked.
Ms. Loftus, if we could turn please to Government Exhibit 404 and 404T. Ms. Murray said, "Your Honor, if I may approach Mr. Khaled with a physical binder of the transcripts as well."
The court said you may.
Mr. Khaled, 404T is up on the screen. You're welcome to follow along in the binder. What was the date of the conversation that was recorded here?
May 4th, 2021.
And the time?
6:13, sorry 5:13.
5:13 p.m.?
Yes.
We can go to the next page. Ms. Loftus, if we could start playing, excuse me. Go back up, please. Who are the participants to this call?
Myself and William J.E.
We can go to the next page and start playing the recording, please.
Media played.
Can you pause, Ms. Loftus? Mr. Khaled. This call was approximately 1 week after the call we just listened to, is that correct?
Yes.
And the funds that are being discussed during this call between you and William J.E. Are those the same funds that were discussed during the earlier call?
No.
What is the difference?
The other funds that were discussed was money that was at G Club Morgan Stanley account that was collected directly through G Club and was parked at Morgan Stanley's account. These funds were the monies transferred from November to April, May to Crane's account.
And in these discussions with Mr. J.E., why, if at all, is the purchase order number or the membership number relevant to Crane's work?
Because in order to match that, this money is actually for G Club. There had to be a membership number and a membership agreement signed by the members.
Ms. Loftus, we can continue playing.
Media played.
You can pause, Ms. Loftus. Mr. Khaled, what, if anything, is your understanding of what the reference to shares of the future GTV means?
They would get a stake in GTV, like stock shares of the private offering.
Ms. Murray said, all right. We can continue, Ms. Loftus.
Media played.
Can you pause, Ms. Loftus? Mr. Khaled, in that conversation that you just had, the reference to a different explanation the prior week, with whom, if anyone, had you been discussing these funds in advance of this call we're listening to?
Yvette, Miles and Miles' son.
Continued on next page. By Ms. Murray.
And at the time of this call on May 4, 2021, what was your understanding of what these funds represented?
I was still confused. I did not know.
Ms. Shrofa said, I'm sorry. I didn't catch that.
The witness said, I was still confused. I did not know at that time.
Ms. Murray said, Ms. Loftus, if we could please go to Government Exhibits 405 and 405T. And this is in your binder as well if you want to find it, Mr. Khaled. There we go. What is the date of this call?
May 4th, 2021.
The same date as the call we just listened to?
Yes.
And what is the time?
5:42.
And who are the participants in this call?
William J.E., myself, and David from Long Island.
Ms. Murray said, Ms. Loftus, if we could please go to the 6:53 mark, and that's page 10 of the transcript. We could start playing the audio, Ms. Loftus.
Audio played.
Ms. Murray said, sorry, Ms. Loftus. It's page 5.
Audio replayed.
Ms. Murray said, can we pause, please, Ms. Loftus?
By Ms. Murray.
Mr. Khaled, what role, if any, did Long Island David have at G Club?
No role.
Why, if at all, was he involved in these discussions regarding the movement of G Club money?
It was for facilitating the package. The payment facilitation package that Crane requested from the farms.
From which farms in particular?
Didn't specify exactly which one.
And who, if anyone, introduced Long Island David to these conversations regarding the money held in Crane's account?
Yvette Wang.
Ms. Murray said, all right. Ms. Loftus, if we could please now go to Government Exhibits 406 and 406T. Mr. Khaled, what's the date of this recorded call?
May 6th, 2021.
And the time?
9:43 a.m.
That's 2 days after the call we just listened to, right?
Yes.
Who are the participants?
Miles Sungwa and myself.
Ms. Murray said, all right. Ms. Loftus, if we could please start at the 8:35 mark. This is page 8 of the transcript. Near the bottom of that page.
Audio played.
What Anna is that referring to?
Anna the attorney, in-house attorney for G Club operation in Puerto Rico.
Ms. Murray said, all right. We can continue, Ms. Loftus.
Audio continued.
Ms. Murray said, can you pause, Ms. Loftus? Mr. Khaled, what did you mean when you said, it keeps changing?
The purpose of the money keeps changing.
Ms. Murray said, we can continue, Ms. Loftus.
Audio continued.
Ms. Murray said, can we pause, Ms. Loftus? Mr. Khaled, there's a reference to you receiving 1,300. What does that mean?
1,300 wires.
Ms. Murray said, all right. We can continue.
Audio continued.
Ms. Murray said, can you pause, Ms. Loftus? Mr. Khaled, the reference to Hamilton checking its box, what does that mean?
So Hamilton, to receive money from Crane, they needed to conduct KYC on Crane. So that is what the checking the boxes is.
With respect to the various stated purposes we've seen for this fund, what role, if any, did Hamilton play?
Hamilton was the entity that is receiving money for the $.
Ms. Murray said, all right. We can continue, Ms. Loftus.
Audio continued.
Ms. Murray said, can you pause, Ms. Loftus? In that portion that Miles' son just stated, how, if at all? Is he referring to the people who were sending money to Crane?
That they don't give a damn about procedures?
How is he describing them, those people?
Investors.
And Mr. Khaled, who ran Hamilton?
William J.E.
Ms. Shrofa said, objection.
The court said, overruled. You may continue.
Who ran Hamilton?
William J.E.
Ms. Murray said, we can continue, Ms. Loftus.
Audio continued.
Ms. Murray said, can you pause, Ms. Loftus, and skip ahead to 1206? Halfway through the next page.
Audio played.
Ms. Murray said, can you pause there, Ms. Loftus?
By Ms. Murray.
Mr. Khaled, what did you mean by the reference to jail?
That I could go to jail.
Why, if at all, were you concerned about going to jail in connection with the transfers of this money?
'Cause there's risk of money laundering, fraud, etc., and I was the only name on Crane. And everything was, the transfer requests, the wires were going to be through me.
Ms. Murray said, Ms. Loftus, could we please go to Government Exhibits 408 and 408T? And we'll just play this whole clip. We can start at page 2. Mr. Khaled, looking at the transcript binder in front of you, who are the participants of this call, 408?
Just give me 1 second. That's Miles' son, myself.
Ms. Murray said, all right. And we can play this clip, Ms. Loftus.
Audio played.
Ms. Murray said, Ms. Loftus, if you can pause it. Mr. Khaled, just for clarity, when you're referencing 50, what amount is that?
$50 million.
Ms. Murray said, all right. Let's continue.
Audio continued.
Mr. Khaled, in the conversations that we've listened to and looked at so far, what use, if any, is G Club contemplating for this money?
Ms. Shrofa said, objection.
The court said, overruled.
Investment.
In the calls that we've listened to, what discussion, if any, is there of using the G Club money for services to the members?
None.
Ms. Murray said, Ms. Loftus, can we go to Government Exhibit 409, please, and 409T? Mr. Khaled, this call is still dated May 6, 2021. What time was it?
1:14 p.m.
And who are the participants?
Miles Gway, myself, and William J.E.
Ms. Murray said, Ms. Loftus, if we could start playing from the beginning, please.
Audio played.
Ms. Murray said, Ms. Loftus, you can skip ahead to 436, just slightly further down the transcript page.
Audio played.
Ms. Murray said, you can pause, Ms. Loftus.
By Ms. Murray.
Mr. Khaled, there was a reference to Gladys. Do you know who Gladys is?
Gladys was the assistant for Miles Gway.
Ms. Murray said, Ms. Loftus, if we could please go to the 624 mark.
The court said, what page is that?
Ms. Murray said, it's the same page, Your Honor. It just cuts out a little bit of a blank interstitial conversation about Mr. Khaled's dog.
Audio played. By Ms. Murray.
Mr. Khaled, do you see references to the Alliance Committee?
Yes.
Do you have an understanding of what that is?
No.
Ms. Murray said, all right. Let's continue.
Audio continued.
Ms. Murray said, we can pause, Ms. Loftus. Mr. Khaled, the funds that are being discussed here as a potential investment with David's company. What was your understanding of the source of those funds when they came into Crane's account?
The source was, these are individuals, members, also investors.
Members of what?
Ms. Shrofa said, objection. Asked and answered.
G Club.
The court said, overruled.
Members for G Club.
And investors in what?
Investors in the private offering in the BVI as well as the $.
Ms. Murray said, all right. Ms. Loftus, can we please go to Government Exhibits 411 and 411T? Mr. Khaled, again, looking at the dates, same day, May 6, 2021. What time was this call?
For 53 p.m.
And who were the participants?
Ana Izquierdo, Miles Gwe, myself, a third person, another person.
Ms. Murray said, and Ms. Loftus, if we could please start at 5:30, that should be just the very bottom of page 5. Into page 6 of the transcript.
Audio played.
Ms. Murray said, Ms. Loftus, if you could pause. Mr. Khaled, how did Ana Izquierdo characterize the 56 million in that comment? Starts with, it's.
It's only.
Ms. Murray said, all right. Ms. Loftus, we can continue.
Audio continued.
Ms. Murray said, Ms. Loftus, if you can pause. Mr. Khaled, in the translated portion of what Miles Gwe is saying there. Do you see the reference to a Swiss bank account?
Yes.
Did Crane hold any bank accounts in Switzerland?
No.
Were you aware of any G Club Swiss bank accounts to which you were asked to transfer money from Crane?
No.
Ms. Murray said, all right. We can continue.
Audio continued.
Ms. Murray said, can you pause? So Mr. Khaled, the beginning of that comment you just made, so, Crane for G Club has 132, first of all. What does 132 mean?
132 million.
And what did you mean by, Crane for G Club?
Holding for G Club.
So in your comment there. What amount is Crane holding for G Club of the amount of money that's in the Crane account?
Yes, 132 million.
Ms. Murray said, all right. We can continue.
Audio continued.
Ms. Murray said, can you pause? Mr. Khaled, do you see the reference to people by the card?
Yes.
What does that refer to?
Membership card.
Membership card for what?
G Club.
Ms. Murray said, all right. Let's continue.
Audio continued.
Ms. Murray said, can you pause? Can we move ahead, please, to the 1702 mark? That's at the bottom of page 13 of the transcript. And we can play from 1702.
Audio played.
Ms. Murray said, sorry, Ms. Loftus. It's page 13 of the transcript. If we could go back to that 1702 mark.
Audio replayed.
Ms. Murray said, can you pause?
By Ms. Murray.
Mr. Khaled, the reference that Miles Gwe made to the CCP. What do you understand him to be saying about why he wanted to move this money overseas?
That the CCP is going to try to block the money in America.
At the time of this call in May of 2021, did you believe that?
No.
Ms. Murray said, and Ms. Loftus, let's go to Government Exhibit 412, please. And 412T. Again, Mr. Khaled, same day. What time is this call?
5:25 p.m.
Who are the participants?
Miles Gwe, Ana Izquierdo, Miles Gwe, Aaron Mitchell, myself, and Victor Serda.
And at this time, in May of 2021, what entity did Ana Izquierdo work for?
G Club Puerto Rico.
What entity did Aaron Mitchell work for?
Not specified, but in the townhouse, for the family.
Sorry. If you could just.
For the family, in the townhouse.
For whose family?
Yes.
For whose family?
Gwe family.
And at this time what entity did you work for?
Saraca, my contract.
And what entity did Victor Serda work for?
No specific one.
Ms. Murray said, all right. Ms. Loftus, if we could please go to the 222 mark. That's at the bottom of page 3 of the transcript.
Audio played.
Ms. Murray said, can you pause there, Ms. Loftus? Mr. Khaled. At this time, what did you understand about the purpose of these refunds that Miles Guo was referring to?
That's the money that, can you ask the question again?
Sure. Ms. Murray said, actually, Ms. Loftus, if we could go back, please, to Government Exhibits 411 and 411T. This is a prior call. And if we could start at the 26:21 mark. That's on page 20 of the transcript.
Audio played.
Ms. Murray said, if we could scroll up to the portion that starts with, so, alright, Miles Guo's comment.
By Ms. Murray.
Mr. Khaled, in this portion of the call, what reference is there, if any, to members requesting refunds?
I don't see where you are.
In this paragraph that's up on your screen, there's a reference to refunds. Do you see that?
Yes. The fellow fighters that hold the card's power.
And a few lines above that, it says, we return all the cards. Do you see that?
Yes.
With respect to the return of the cards or the refund that's being discussed here, what reference is there? If any, to members being the ones who were requesting the refund?
There's none.
And what entity, if any, is proposing to buy all of the G Club cards back after they are refunded?
The Alliance Committee.
Ms. Murray said, all right. We can continue, Ms. Loftus.
Audio continued.
Ms. Murray said, pause, Ms. Loftus. Mr. Khaled, in that portion of the conversation regarding potentially closing G Club.
Ms. Shrofa said, objection to the leading, Your Honor. There's no question pending.
Ms. Murray said, no problem, Your Honor. That portion of the conversation, Mr. Khaled, what discussion, if any, is there of services that are provided to G Club's members?
None.
What discussion, if any, is there of the potential implication to member benefits of shuttering G Club Puerto Rico?
None.
Ms. Murray said, all right. Ms. Loftus, we can go to 412 again, please, and 412T. We're going to start at the 1209 mark, which is on the top of page 10 of the transcript. Actually, first, if you could just zoom in on the top portion again to remind us who the participants are to this call. Thank you. And we can go to page 10 now of the transcript. The 1209 mark. Thank you.
Audio played.
Ms. Murray said, all right. We can pause, Ms. Loftus. And if we could go to the 1449 mark. I guess that's right where we are. We'll continue here.
Audio played.
Ms. Murray said, can you pause there, Ms. Loftus?
By Ms. Murray.
Mr. Khaled, why, if at all? Were you advising that whomever was opening a bank account should inform the bank of the anticipated transfer activity?
Because that's what happened with Morgan Stanley. Money came in, then goes out. And whoever was opening up that account. The entire conversation at that time was to get the money to the final destination, which is Hamilton. So they were just moving it from one account to another. And that was just going to sit there for maybe a week and go out. So I was kind of telling whoever. At that time Anna and Aaron were opening up the BVI. I stopped communicating with those banks or any banks. So I just wanted to put it out there.
And returning to the earlier part of this call that we just listened to, what understanding? Or what did you understand Mileson to be saying about being a settler of G Club?
In control and really the ultimate beneficiary of it.
And in that conversation Mileson had identified the legal ultimate beneficiary owner of G Club. Is that right? Ms. Murray said, please scroll up, Ms. Loftus.
Yeah, the ultimate beneficiary owner on paper, Mr. He.
Ms. Murray said, if we can just continue, Ms. Loftus. Your Honor. We have about 1 minute left in this clip and then I think it would be a good time to break, if we could.
The court said, all right. Go ahead.
Ms. Murray said, thank you.
Audio played.
Ms. Murray said, pause there, Ms. Loftus.
By Ms. Murray.
Going back up, Mr. Khaled. How did you and Mileson describe the intended use or purpose of those accounts that were going to be opened up?
as a pass-through.
Ms. Murray said, all right. We can break now, if it makes sense, Your Honor.
The court said, all right then. Members of the jury, it's 11:30, so we will have our half of an hour break. Remember that you're not allowed to discuss the case amongst yourselves. Don't allow anyone to discuss it in your presence. Don't listen to, read, or watch anything from any source having anything to do with the subject matter of this trial.
Jury not present.
The court said, sir, you may step out. Don't discuss your testimony.
Witness not present.
The court said, is there anything before we resume at noon?
Ms. Murray said, nothing from the government.
Ms. Strofa said, Your Honor, I actually did have one matter to raise. The witness was asked a question about how did Miles' son, and he described the purposes of the account. Before the witness answered, highlighted for him, or at least including for me, was the words on page 13. The two words pass through. I would have, had the government not said, this is a good time to stop. And if the court hadn't responded, I would have objected to the highlighting. And I can't see the court anymore. But, so I would object, Your Honor. Before a witness answers, it would be wholly inappropriate to highlight the response, or even direct the witness as to where it is that the government wants him or her to focus on. If the government wants to repose the question, that's fine. If the government wants to state out loud a page number, that's fine. But to highlight something and that not be reflected in the record is my objection. Thank you.
The court said, was that inadvertent?
Ms. Murray said, yes, Your Honor, and it was inadvertent, and understood. We're happy to pose the question again without the highlighting. I'm happy to just direct Mr. Khaled to the portion of the call which has already been introduced into evidence and ask him to cite that portion and explain what, if anything, he meant by pass-through.
Ms. Strofa said, that would only be like the 10th time we ask the same question. I would just ask that the government not do that again.
Ms. Murray said, Your Honor, we respectfully disagree, but...
The court said, I do disagree. I do not remember this question being asked beforehand, so we'll return at noon.
All counsel said, thank you, Your Honor.
Lunch and recess.